Ethan Cole opened his eyes slowly, confused by the strange noises around him. He sat up from his bunk, realizing something was very wrong. The familiar hum of engines and the quiet murmurs of crew members aboard the Horizon had been replaced by shouting and crashing sounds. Alarmed, Ethan jumped up quickly and pulled on his boots. "What's happening?" he shouted as he stepped into the dimly lit corridor. Crew members rushed past him, their faces filled with fear. Ethan grabbed a man named Frank by the arm as he ran past. "Frank, what's going on?" Ethan demanded. "Aliens, Ethan. They've boarded the ship." Frank yelled back before breaking free and running toward the escape pods. Ethan's heart pounded. He had heard stories of alien attacks, but never believed he'd see one himself. He followed the panicked crew members, trying to reach safety, but a powerful explosion rocked the ship, throwing Ethan to the ground. When he managed to get back on his feet, the lights flickered wildly. Smoke filled the corridor, making it hard to breathe. Coughing, Ethan staggered forward, searching desperately for a way out. Suddenly, he saw a shadow move quickly toward him from the smoke. Ethan froze. A towering alien appeared, its bright blue skin glowing faintly. Its eyes were cold and dark, its expression filled with cruel amusement. The alien wore black armor, and behind him stood a terrifying creature that made Ethan's blood run cold. The creature was massive, covered in thick scales that shone a deep green. Its claws were razor sharp, and its teeth seemed capable of crushing metal. The alien laughed harshly and pointed at Ethan. "Kneel, human," the alien demanded, his voice rough and commanding. "Kneel before your new master, Carrick, or my beast, Zorax, will tear you apart." Ethan stared at the beast, its yellow eyes fixed on him, filled with an intense hunger. Every instinct told him to run, but he knew he stood no chance. Slowly, Ethan lowered himself to his knees, feeling a mix of anger and humiliation. "Good," Carrick sneered, stepping closer. "Humans learn quickly. Maybe you'll survive longer than the others." Zorax sniffed Ethan curiously, its massive head moving closer. Ethan closed his eyes, expecting the worst, but the creature merely huffed softly, its breath hot against Ethan's skin. "Interesting," Carrick said, noticing the beast's unusual behavior. "It seems Zorax is intrigued by you, human." Carrick grabbed Ethan roughly by his arm, pulling him to his feet. "You're coming with us. You'll serve as Zorax's caretaker. If you disappoint me, your death will be slow and painful." Ethan stumbled after the alien warlord as they moved through the damaged ship. He passed other crew members who were either captured or lying still on the ground. His stomach churned in dread and sadness, but he knew he had to stay strong. They boarded the alien vessel, which was dimly lit and filled with strange technology. Ethan was taken to a large chamber that smelled strongly of animal fur and raw meat. Zorax followed obediently, curling up in a corner, its fierce gaze never leaving Ethan. "This is your new home," Carrick announced with a sneer. "Keep the beast healthy and calm, or suffer the consequences." With those final words, the alien warlord left Ethan alone with the terrifying creature. Ethan slowly moved to sit against a wall, keeping a cautious eye on Zorax. The beast stared back, quiet and watchful. Hours passed in tense silence. Ethan's initial fear slowly eased as Zorax remained still. Gathering courage, Ethan spoke softly. "Are you going to hurt me?" Zorax blinked slowly but didn't move. Ethan cautiously extended a hand, his voice gentle. "It's okay. I won't hurt you either." To Ethan's astonishment, Zorax shifted closer, sniffing his outstretched hand. Gaining a bit of confidence, Ethan reached out further, gently touching the creature's tough scales. Zorax made a soft noise, almost like a sigh. Ethan's heart raced, amazed by this small victory. Maybe there was more to this creature than violence. Maybe, Ethan thought with a glimmer of hope, he could survive and find a way to fight back. Exhausted from the day's terrifying events, Ethan leaned back, keeping one hand on Zorax's head. Sleep slowly claimed him, bringing dreams of freedom and strength. He would not remain a prisoner forever. Somehow, he knew deep inside that his journey with Zorax had only just begun. Ethan woke up, startled by the heavy breathing beside him. Quickly remembering his situation, he opened his eyes carefully. Zorax lay quietly nearby, his massive body gently rising and falling with each breath. Ethan's hand still rested on the beast's tough scales. Strangely, he felt safer close to the creature. Slowly standing, Ethan stretched his tired limbs. His eyes explored the dim chamber, searching for anything useful. It was large and cold, filled with odd tools and bits of technology Ethan didn't recognize. A few large bowls were stacked in a corner, and a trough filled with water sat against. The wall dot as Ethan moved. Zorax opened one eye, watching him closely. The creature's gaze was cautious, but not aggressive. Ethan smiled softly, speaking gently. "It's okay, Zorax. I'm just looking around." Zorax huffed quietly and laid his head back down. Encouraged by this small act of trust, Ethan explored further. He discovered a control panel covered in strange symbols. Ethan had always been good with machines, but this technology was beyond his knowledge. Still, he carefully studied the symbols, trying to find any meaning. His exploration was interrupted by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Ethan quickly moved away from the panel, sitting beside Zorax. The beast, sensing something, sat up, alert and watchful. The door slid open with a loud hiss, and Carrick entered, his dark eyes full of suspicion. "So, human, you survived the night." "Impressive," Carrick sneered. "I did what you asked," Ethan replied, keeping his voice calm. "I care for Zorax." Carrick eyed Zorax closely, noticing the creature's calm state. "Strange. Usually he destroys. Humans on sight. Perhaps you're useful after all." Carrick threw a chunk of raw meat towards Zorax. The beast caught it in midair, swallowing quickly. Ethan watched silently, his stomach tightening at the display of raw power. "Feed him," Carrick ordered coldly, tossing another chunk to Ethan. "If he remains obedient, you live." Ethan hesitated briefly before moving closer to Zorax. Carefully, he held out the meat. Zorax took it gently from Ethan's hand, surprising both Ethan and Carrick. Ethan felt a strange warmth inside. Perhaps he really could reach this creature. "Interesting," Carrick muttered again, clearly confused but unwilling to show weakness. "You better keep this bond strong, human. Your life depends on it." Carrick left, the door sealing behind him. Ethan sighed, relieved but shaken. He turned to Zorax, who gazed back quietly. "We have to stay friends," Ethan whispered. "We need each other." Days passed, and Ethan settled into a routine. He fed and cared for Zorax, studying the creature's behavior carefully. Zorax began to show signs of comfort around Ethan, often resting beside him and allowing Ethan to touch him freely. Ethan slowly understood Zorax's gestures and expressions. Despite his fearsome appearance, the beast was intelligent and gentle. Ethan wondered how such a creature had become Carrick's weapon. He felt deep sadness, realizing Zorax was likely forced into this violent role. One evening, as Ethan gently cleaned a wound on Zorax's leg, he noticed a strange metal object partially hidden beneath the scales. Curious and concerned, Ethan examined it carefully. It looked like a small electronic device embedded deep into the creature's skin. "Is this what's controlling you?" Ethan murmured softly. Zorax flinched slightly, clearly uncomfortable with the device being touched. Ethan pulled his hand away quickly, soothing Zorax softly. "I'm sorry, friend. We'll figure this out." Determined, Ethan began to secretly investigate. Each time Carrick visited, Ethan carefully observed his interactions and the tools he used. Slowly, he realized Carrick used similar devices to control other creatures on the ship. Hope grew stronger inside Ethan. If he could somehow remove or disable the device, perhaps Zorax would be free. Perhaps they could both escape. He spent long nights quietly planning, whispering ideas to Zorax, who listened intently, often responding with quiet noises. Ethan realized he wasn't just caring for an alien beast. He was building a partnership based on trust. Soon, Zorax, Ethan promised gently one night, rubbing the creature's thick scales reassuringly. We'll be free from this prison. Zorax softly nudged Ethan's hand, a clear gesture of understanding and agreement. Ethan smiled warmly, feeling genuine hope for the first time since his capture. Together, he knew they could change their fate. Days turned into weeks aboard Carrick's ship, and Ethan settled into his strange new routine. Each day he woke early, feeding and caring for Zorax. The beast had quickly grown comfortable around him, often resting quietly as Ethan gently cleaned its thick scales and checked its powerful claws. Ethan found comfort in their growing friendship, even though he never forgot the danger he faced. One afternoon, Ethan carefully studied the mysterious device buried in Zorax's scales again. He knew he had to learn more about it. With gentle touches, he traced the edges of the metal, observing how deeply it was embedded in Zorax's skin. Zorax flinched slightly, but remained calm, trusting Ethan. We'll get this off you someday, Ethan promised softly, patting Zorax reassuringly. Suddenly, the door hissed open, startling both Ethan and Zorax. Ethan quickly stepped away, pretending to busy himself with cleaning tools. Carrick strode into the room, his eyes dark with suspicion and anger. You spend too much time whispering with that beast, Carrick growled, stepping closer. What are you plotting, human? Nothing, Ethan replied, calmly, trying to control his racing heartbeat. I'm just taking care of Zorax, as you ordered. Good, Carrick said slowly, his voice cold. Because tonight, you'll both prove your worth. Ethan felt his chest tighten. What do you mean? There's an uprising in the lower levels, Carrick explained, an evil smile forming on his lips. You'll take Zorax there to crush it. Show any mercy, and I'll know you're a traitor. Carrick left quickly, leaving Ethan shaking with fear and anger. He looked at Zorax, who gazed back at him, sensing Ethan's distress. We can't do this, Ethan whispered, his voice tight with worry. I won't let him use you to hurt innocent people. He paced anxiously, trying to form a plan. Eventually, he took a deep breath, determination filling his heart. We'll pretend, Zorax, he said clearly. We must play along, at least for now. That evening, Ethan followed Carrick's soldiers down into the lower levels. Zorax stayed close, by his side, growling softly at the soldiers, but obedient to Ethan's gentle commands. The corridor was filled with the sounds of frightened captives shouting for freedom. When they reached the cells, Ethan's heart sank. Men and women, clearly scared but defiant, stood trapped behind thick bars. Ethan glanced at Zorax, hoping the creature understood their plan. Release the beast. One soldier shouted harshly. Ethan leaned close to Zorax, whispering quickly, act fierce, but don't hurt anyone. Zorax immediately roared loudly, lunging forward. The soldiers quickly stepped back, afraid of the enormous beast. Ethan pretended to struggle to control Zorax, pulling firmly on a loose chain around the beast's neck. Calm down, Ethan shouted, making a show of effort. Stop. Inside the cells, the prisoners watched with wide, terrified eyes, not knowing Ethan's true intentions. Zorax swiped claws harmlessly at the walls, creating loud crashes and sparks, but deliberately avoiding any real harm. After several tense moments, Ethan finally shouted loudly, Enough, Zorax! Back! Zorax obediently stepped back, snarling convincingly. The soldiers, impressed but wary, slowly moved forward again. Ethan caught glimpses of relief in the prisoner's eyes, and he felt a surge of hope. They had managed to avoid bloodshed. You have control over the beast, the lead soldier said grudgingly. Carrick will be pleased. They returned to their quarters, Ethan's heart still pounding from the tension. He knew it wouldn't be long before Carrick suspected their deception. Back in their chamber, Ethan sat heavily, feeling exhausted yet determined. Zorax lay beside him, resting his enormous head gently in Ethan's lap. Ethan scratched behind Zorax's ears, comforted by their strong bond. We can't keep doing this, Ethan murmured softly. We need a way out soon. Zorax huffed gently in agreement. Ethan glanced at the strange panel he had studied earlier. He stood, moving decisively toward it again. This time, he studied the symbols carefully, memorizing patterns and shapes. We need to learn this ship, Ethan explained quietly to Zorax. Then we'll make our escape. Zorax watched intently, clearly sensing Ethan's urgency and determination. Together, they had avoided harming innocent people. Now, they were prepared for the day they could fight back, free themselves, and maybe even save the others. That night, Ethan fell asleep filled with a quiet resolve. He dreamed not of captivity, but of courage and freedom, knowing his bond with Zorax had become their greatest strength. Ethan spent the following days secretly learning the ship's layout, studying the strange symbols and controls. Zorax quietly watched over him, protective and patient. Each night, Ethan carefully mapped out the alien ship in his mind, planning the perfect escape route. One afternoon, Ethan worked carefully on Zorax's scales, inspecting the metal device once more. He cautiously touched around the edges, hoping to find a weakness. Zorax winced slightly, turning his head gently toward Ethan, eyes filled with trust. "We're close," Ethan whispered softly. "I just need a bit more time to understand how this works." The chamber door opened suddenly, causing Ethan to jump slightly. Laura and Jake, two other prisoners who often delivered supplies, entered. They both nodded respectfully to Ethan, eyes cautious yet hopeful. Over the past weeks, Ethan had carefully begun to trust them. "We have news," Laura whispered quickly, keeping an eye on the door. "The prisoners are ready. Everyone knows about you. And Zorax. They believe you can help." "We need a signal," Jake added urgently. "We're waiting for your sign to fight." Ethan felt pressure building in his chest, knowing many lives depended on him. He looked at Zorax, who watched him calmly, understanding more than he appeared to. "Give me a few more days," Ethan said softly, determination clear in his voice. "When I remove the device from Zorax, that will be our signal." Laura nodded, gripping Ethan's shoulder reassuringly. "We'll be ready." After Laura and Jake left, Ethan returned to the device on Zorax's skin. He knew he needed tools to safely remove it. That night, Ethan quietly slipped out of the chamber while Zorax pretended to sleep, guarding their secret. Moving carefully, Ethan navigated through dim corridors, avoiding patrols. His heart raced with each step, but determination pushed him forward. Eventually, he reached a storage room filled with strange alien tools. Ethan grabbed a small kit, hoping it had what he needed. Returning quickly, Ethan's relief was short-lived. Near the chamber, two guards suddenly appeared, blocking his path. Ethan hid swiftly behind a metal crate, holding his breath. He watched anxiously, gripping the toolkit tightly. The guards stood talking for what felt like hours, but eventually walked away, their footsteps fading into silence. Ethan released a shaky breath and hurried back to Zorax. Inside the chamber, Zorax was alert, clearly worried. Ethan showed him the toolkit, smiling weakly. "It's okay. I made it." Zorax nuzzled Ethan reassuringly, sensing his tension. Ethan carefully opened the toolkit, examining its contents. Alien tools, strange but manageable, filled the small container. "Tomorrow," Ethan promised softly, "we'll remove that device." The following morning, Ethan woke early, nerves making his hands shake slightly. Zorax remained calm, sitting patiently as Ethan prepared the tools. Ethan carefully positioned himself beside the embedded device, selecting a slender glowing tool from the kit. "Hold still," Ethan instructed gently. Voice steady despite his racing heart, Zorax remained perfectly still as Ethan carefully worked around the device, slowly loosening it from Zorax's skin. It took great patience and precision, but gradually, Ethan felt the device begin to loosen. Sweat dripped down Ethan's forehead as he made the final move, gently pulling the metal device free. Zorax roared softly in pain, his body shaking briefly before he calmed, breathing heavily. "It's done," Ethan whispered, amazed and relieved. "You're free, Zorax." Zorax stared deeply into Ethan's eyes, and Ethan saw gratitude and loyalty clearly shining back at him. Together, they had overcome the first step toward freedom. Just then, alarms sounded throughout the ship, loud and terrifying. Ethan's heart jumped into his throat as he realized Carrick must have sensed the device's removal. Ethan stood quickly, looking urgently at Zorax. "This is our chance," Ethan shouted above the alarms. "Let's free the others." They rushed from their chamber, running swiftly toward the prisoner cells. Zorax moved beside Ethan, powerful and confident. Along the way, they met Laura, Jake, and others already fighting guards and releasing prisoners. "You did it!" Laura shouted joyfully, fighting fiercely. Zorax roared loudly, his presence immediately boosting everyone's morale. Guards backed away in terror, overwhelmed by the sudden uprising. Ethan quickly freed prisoners, telling them to follow closely. Behind, chaos filled the ship as humans and alien captives alike joined the rebellion, inspired by Ethan and Zorax's bravery. Together they fought toward the ship's main control room, knowing their battle was far from over, but determined to reclaim their freedom. As they reached the central command doors, Ethan paused, looking at his loyal companion. "This is it, Zorax," Ethan said clearly. "Together we end this." Zorax nodded, eyes fierce and determined. Side by side, human and creature prepared to confront Carrick, united in courage and trust. Ethan and Zorax burst through the heavy doors of the central command room. They were immediately confronted by Carrick, who stood behind a wide control panel, his eyes blazing with fury. Around him stood several heavily armed guards, weapons aimed. "And ready?" "So human," Carrick sneered, his voice thick with hatred. "You think you've won? You are nothing but a weak prisoner." Ethan took a deep breath, standing firm. Zorax growled deeply, his powerful presence filling Ethan with courage. "We're not prisoners anymore, Carrick," Ethan said firmly. "You can't control us now." "Foolish." "Human!" Carrick shouted, pointing at Zorax. "That beast belongs to me. It obeys only my commands." "Not anymore," Ethan replied boldly. "Zorax is free. You won't hurt him or anyone else again." Carrick snarled in anger and pressed a button on the panel. Doors on either side opened, releasing more alien creatures into the room, their eyes glowing angrily. Ethan's heart raced, but Zorax moved protectively in front of him. "Stay strong," Ethan whispered, trusting his friend completely. The creatures charged forward, snarling fiercely. Zorax fought bravely, defending Ethan and pushing back the attacking beasts. Ethan and his companions struggled against the guards, fighting desperately for control of the command room. Laura and Jake arrived moments later with reinforcements, battling bravely alongside Ethan. The room filled with noise and confusion as both sides fought fiercely. Ethan narrowly dodged blasts from alien weapons, determined not to let fear control him. Amidst the chaos, Ethan saw Carrick attempting to escape through a hidden side door. He knew he couldn't let the alien warlord flee and continue causing pain elsewhere. "Zorax, come with me," Ethan called urgently, pointing toward Carrick. Together, Ethan and Zorax chased Carrick down a narrow hallway. Carrick ran swiftly, occasionally firing backward at them. Zorax shielded Ethan from blasts, his thick scales deflecting most attacks harmlessly. They cornered Carrick in a small chamber filled with flashing equipment. The alien warlord turned to face them, desperation in his eyes. "You think this changes?" "Anything?" Carrick hissed, clearly shaken. "Others will come. They will crush you. We'll fight back," Ethan declared firmly. "No one deserves to live as a slave." Carrick lunged toward a weapon lying on a table, but Zorax swiftly blocked his path, roaring fiercely. The alien warlord fell backward, eyes wide with fear for the first time. Ethan stepped forward, calmly facing Carrick. "Surrender?" Ethan demanded, his voice steady. "Your rule is over." Carrick stared hatefully, but finally nodded in defeat, slumping to the ground. Ethan carefully secured the warlord, knowing the fight was finally ending. Returning to the main command room, Ethan saw the battle had ended. The guards surrendered, realizing their leader had fallen. Ethan stood in front of the gathered crowd, human and alien captives alike watching him with hopeful eyes. "We're free," Ethan said, relief and pride clear in his voice. "But our work isn't finished. We must ensure this never happens again." Cheers echoed through the room as the captives celebrated their victory. Ethan turned to Zorax, gently patting his friend's head. "Thank you," he whispered softly. "We did this together." Zorax nudged Ethan affectionately, their bond now unbreakable. Ethan felt deep gratitude for their friendship, knowing it had given him the strength to fight Dot in the following days. Ethan and the others repaired the ship, learning more about its technology and capabilities. Zorax stayed close, protective, and loyal. Ethan watched as friendships formed among the freed prisoners, their shared struggle uniting them. One evening, Ethan stood quietly by a large window, gazing out at the stars. He knew their victory had come at great risk, but it was worth the freedom they'd won. Zorax approached silently, sitting beside him and looking out into the vastness of space. "We're just starting," Ethan said gently, placing a hand on Zorax's shoulder. "We can help others now, Zorax. We can make a difference." Zorax growled softly, agreeing. Ethan smiled, feeling peace for the first time since his capture. Together, they had overcome impossible odds, proving trust and friendship could defeat even the strongest enemies. As Ethan gazed into space, hope filled his heart. They were no longer prisoners, but protectors, determined to spread freedom and courage wherever they traveled. Side by side with Zorax, Ethan knew their journey had only just begun. Days passed as Ethan, Zorax, and their companions repaired and reorganized the alien ship. Freed captives and creatures worked side by side, their differences slowly forgotten in shared purpose and friendship. Ethan felt pride seeing the former. Prisoners regained strength and confidence. One afternoon, Ethan met with Laura, Jake, and other leaders in the command room. They discussed plans carefully, focusing on their next important step. They needed allies to ensure long-term safety. "We must find friendly worlds," Laura said thoughtfully. "Places willing to help protect us. But who will trust us?" Jake asked, concerned. "We've taken control of an alien warlord ship. They might fear us." Ethan considered carefully, finally speaking clearly. "We'll show them who we truly are. We must approach openly, honestly, and offer peace." Everyone nodded in agreement, encouraged by Ethan's firm determination. They quickly prepared messages of peace and friendship, sending them across nearby star systems. Days later, their patience was rewarded as responses began arriving. One reply stood out clearly. It was from a peaceful world called Terra Nova, known for its willingness to protect others and support freedom. Ethan eagerly read their message, feeling hope growing stronger. "Terra Nova welcomes you," the message reads simply. "We offer you refuge and friendship." Excitement filled the ship as everyone prepared to meet their new allies. Zorax stayed close to Ethan, sensing the importance of this moment. Ethan often spoke softly to Zorax, reassuring the creature they would find acceptance. The journey to Terra Nova took several days. Ethan spent his time visiting former captives, listening to their stories, and offering encouragement. Many shared how Ethan and Zorax had inspired them, giving them courage in their darkest moments. Finally, the ship arrived at Terra Nova. Ethan stood beside Zorax, looking out at the beautiful planet below. Lush green lands and clear oceans spread beneath them, peaceful and inviting. "This could be our new home," Ethan said softly, hope filling his voice. Zorax nudged him gently, clearly agreeing. Soon, their shuttle landed on the surface, where a group of welcoming representatives awaited them. The people of Terra Nova smiled warmly, approaching without fear. "Welcome," said an older man named Daniel, extending his hand to Ethan. "We've heard your story. You are brave and compassionate. Terra Nova is honored to help." Ethan felt relief. and gratitude as he shook Daniel's hand warmly. "Thank you. Our people have suffered greatly. Your kindness gives us new hope." Daniel noticed Zorax standing quietly behind Ethan. "And who is your companion?" "This is Zorax," Ethan explained gently, touching the creature's scales. "He's a friend, not a weapon." Daniel approached carefully, gently extending a hand toward Zorax. Zorax leaned forward slightly, sniffing Daniel's hand cautiously before gently pressing his large head against it. Ethan smiled warmly, relieved by their acceptance. In the days that followed, Ethan and the others settled into their new home. Terra Nova provided shelter, food, and medical care. Ethan often found himself walking peacefully through the green fields, Zorax by his side, enjoying the freedom they had fought so hard to achieve. However, Ethan knew their peace was fragile. Threats still loomed, with other alien warlords likely. Angered by Carrick's defeat, Ethan spoke often with Daniel and the Terra Nova leaders, preparing carefully for any future dangers. One evening, as the sun set, Ethan stood quietly by a large lake. Zorax rested beside him, peaceful and relaxed. Ethan knew they couldn't stay idle for long. They needed to build strong defenses and prepare allies. "Our fight isn't over yet," Ethan said softly, looking into Zorax's wise eyes. "But we're stronger now, and we have friends." Zorax huffed softly, understanding completely. Their bond had grown strong through shared battles and trust. Ethan knew that together they could face whatever came next. That night, Ethan gathered everyone, speaking clearly and confidently. "We found safety and friendship here. Now we must become protectors for others still suffering. We can offer hope, strength, and courage to those in need." Cheers and determined nods filled the gathering, everyone united by purpose. Ethan felt deeply moved by their resilience and bravery. Together, humans and aliens alike vowed to stand strong, protecting freedom across the galaxy. As Ethan stepped back, Zorax stood proudly beside him, their bond stronger than ever. Ethan felt true peace, knowing they had found a purpose greater than themselves. No longer victims, they had become leaders, dedicated to bringing peace and freedom to all. Under the clear night sky, Ethan gazed at the stars, his heart full of hope. Together with Zorax and their allies, he knew they would face any challenge, never again kneeling to fear. Weeks passed quickly on Terra Nova. Ethan and Zorax worked tirelessly, building defenses and training their allies. Their efforts were clear in the growing strength and unity among the people. Terra Nova became known as a safe haven, welcoming and protecting all who sought peace. One calm afternoon, an urgent message arrived at their command center. Ethan read it carefully, his face serious. It was a distress call from a nearby planet called Orion, under attack by alien raiders. "They're calling for help," Ethan explained to Laura and Jake. "They have nowhere else to turn." Laura stepped forward, determination in her eyes. "We have to help them, Ethan, just like Terra Nova helped us." Ethan nodded, knowing she was right. He looked at Zorax, who stood calmly beside him, powerful and ready. "We'll leave immediately," Ethan declared firmly. Quickly, Ethan gathered volunteers and loaded the ship with supplies and weapons. Zorax moved with him, confident and protective. Before long, their ship launched into space, speeding toward Orion. During the journey, Ethan spoke to the crew, reminding them of their purpose. "Remember, we fight not for power, but for freedom and safety. Orion needs our help, just as we once did." The crew listened carefully, inspired by Ethan's words. Zorax growled softly in agreement, ready to face whatever awaited them. Arriving near Orion, Ethan saw the battle clearly through the large windows. Raiders had surrounded Orion's cities, their ships firing without mercy. Ethan's heart filled with anger at the cruelty he saw. "Zorax, stay close," Ethan instructed gently. "We'll stop this madness." Their ship dove into battle, firing at the raiders, surprising them with their sudden attack. Zorax roared fiercely, encouraging their fighters as they quickly broke the Enemy lines. Ethan led teams onto the surface, helping Orion's people fight back. Streets filled with the sounds of battle, but Ethan remained calm, guiding others with courage and care. Zorax fought fiercely by Ethan's side, protecting him and inspiring allies. Soon, the raiders began to retreat, overwhelmed by Ethan's swift response. Orion's people cheered as the enemy fled, relief and gratitude clear in their eyes. The leader of Orion, a wise woman named Elena, approached Ethan with deep appreciation. "You saved our lives. Thank you. Orion owes you a great debt." "There's no debt," Ethan replied warmly. "This is what we do, protect and help each other." Elena smiled gratefully, glancing at Zorax. "Your friend is remarkable. I've never seen such strength and loyalty." Ethan gently touched Zorax's side. "Our friendship is what made us strong. We help each other grow and protect others." Elena nodded, deeply moved. "Orion will stand with you. Together, we'll build a strong alliance." Returning to Terra Nova, Ethan and Zorax were warmly welcomed home. Stories of their bravery quickly spread, inspiring even greater unity among their allies. Terra Nova and Orion formed a powerful friendship, their bond growing stronger every day. Months turned into years, and Terra Nova thrived as a beacon of hope. Ethan remained dedicated, often traveling to help other worlds facing danger. Each mission strengthened their alliances, expanding their peaceful community. One peaceful evening, Ethan sat quietly beside Zorax by their favorite lake. Stars twinkled softly above, reflecting gently on the calm waters. Ethan felt content, reflecting on all they had accomplished. "We did it," Ethan said softly, looking into Zorax's eyes. "We turned our suffering into strength." Zorax gently nudged Ethan, warmth clear in his gesture. Ethan knew their bond was the key to everything they'd achieved. They had learned trust, courage, and friendship, sharing these lessons with countless others. Ethan stood, stretching slightly as he gazed at the night sky. Peace filled his heart, along with a deep sense of purpose. "Our journey isn't over yet," he said quietly. "There's still much good we can do." Zorax growled softly, standing proudly beside Ethan. Together, they walked slowly back toward their home, ready to face whatever came next. Their story of bravery, trust, and friendship spread throughout the galaxy. Ethan and Zorax became legends, symbols of hope and strength. Everywhere, people remembered their message clearly. Unity and kindness could overcome any darkness. For Ethan, life was now a meaningful adventure, filled with purpose. And beside him, always loyal and brave, was his closest friend and protector, Zorax. Together, they knew their legacy of freedom and courage would live on forever, inspiring generations to come.